bonk. A little bit there, a little bit there. This might actually end up being a little bit far away from me. So, welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of the Showcast, the podcast of the Secular Humanists of Windsor. Show is an up-and-coming grassroots organization intended to promote the separation of religion from public policy and foster the development of reason, compassion, and critical thinking for all in Windsor Essex County through secular education and community support. Today's episode features Ashley and Clinton having their usual brand of fun. This is episode 3 now?
Technically,
this is episode
yes.
3? Yeah.
Technically, yes. This is episode
You know,
3.
of course, I am going to drag out the release of the lost episode as long as I possibly can, right?
Yes.
Just so that in 10 years, like, oh, the lost episode. Whatever happened to the lost episode? Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
I feel
Nobody
bad
cares.
that Jill thinks that we're like avoiding her, but it's like she's busy.
We're totally not avoiding you.
She's busy.
We really want you to be here. No, really. No. We do want you to be
She's
here.
busy.
You're busy. We're busy. We're sort of taking it when we can. There may be the sounds of consumption that go on during this podcast. We have tea. Ashley has made donuts.
I'm always
so
cooking. It's a
once
curse.
again, I win and you don't. Neener.
Oh yeah,
meaning-
this is
meaning-
not the first time that I've brought you food when we record. I think it's almost every time.
I meant the listeners. I get donuts and you don't.
They're good.
Have
Grandma's secret recipe
So you haven't put the recipe on A Crafter's Life?
on the blog yet? No.
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 Yet.
Today was
Yet.
apple cranberry crumble though, which
Apple,
is very
see?
good.
There you go. And what's the URL for that?
I don't remember.
What? You don't remember the
it
URL for your own blog?
No, it's a crafterslife.com, but what I'm saying is the actual post, I put it up on the
crafterslife.com.
I have a
That's
Facebook page.
all I wanted to
just-
know.
yeah.
Crafterslife.com. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
it's
help
there.
promote your
You
friggin'
can
blog
find it.
here,
I
and
tag-
you're not making it very easy.
Tag all my recipes with recipes, so if you go down to the bottom of the blog page and you click recipe, it'll bring up all the blogs that have recipe as a tag.
Maybe slide that a little bit closer to you, or
closer.
you slide closer to it, or whatever. Yeah.
I was trying to do the closer to it before and it didn't work out.
So, what's on the docket?
All right, so topic number 1 today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you. Is I appreciate the announcement. Is drinking age and voting.
Okay, what about it?
How about you?
We should get drunk before we vote?
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
We could do worse than we've already done, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So the thing that kind of, I have bugaboos about many things that, for no reason apparently.
I don't know that it's for no reason.
I
but
still remember when I was like a teenager, and I swear to you, they're always talking about dropping the voting age to 16, right? Because that's just a thing that we constantly talk about, but never actually do for whatever reason. And the one thing that they said is that kids would want to lower the drinking age.
Right.
Except for the part where there's actually evidence that suggests that lowering the drinking age is actually a good idea. Countries with lower drinking ages have lower incidences of alcohol-related deaths. Countries with higher drinking ages have significantly increased instances of alcohol-related deaths, specifically in underage drinkers. That's the most important part. It's not to do with 40-year-olds are drinking themselves to death. It's kids that are under the legal drinking age drink themselves to death.
Right.
So obviously your drinking age legislation isn't working effectively. Perhaps you should consider changing it. But no, they're breaking the law. So that's their problem. And that attitude really kind of pisses me off, especially when I remember when I was a teenager and being so mad about it. You can join the army full time at 16. So you can literally go and die on the front lines, but you can't take a drink. That's stupid. It's really dumb. Really ass backwards.
Yes, even worse in countries like America, where your drinking age is until you're 21, but you can join the military, you can vote, you can drive, you can do all this other stuff. The countries with lower or no drinking age, do we think, if I'm not mistaken, their lower rates of alcoholism have a lot to do with the fact that it keeps it from being this great, what's the word I'm looking for? Stigmatized. It demystifies it. When you grow up having a little glass of wine with dinner from the time that you're 5 or 6 or whatever, you grow up and it's not a big deal. You don't really care. It's not. I mean, sure, everybody everybody goes away to college, and your first year is a
Yeah,
write-off, college, university,
it's-
whatever.
But it's not even the drinking; it's the party atmosphere. You go
Right.
out with a bunch of people, and yes, the booze is there, so you're gonna drink
but
it.
what we're talking about, I think, or at least one of the problems that we're talking about is that going out to party with the express goal of getting blackout drunk.
Yeah,
Right.
because you're underage and you don't know when you'll be able to get your alcohol next.
That too,
right?
Yeah.
That's the main issue that they tie it to, is that they're like, well, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get booze again, so we're going to drink all of this tonight,
Right.
right?
Yep. That also, actually, this is sort of tangentially related. The abolishment of last call, because last call does exactly the same thing.
Exactly. You end
It
up triple
sets-
fisting.
It sets an arbitrary limit. Exactly. It sets an arbitrary limit. Okay, we are going to stop serving you at 2:00 or whatever it is these days. We're going to stop serving you at 2:00. So everybody pounds as much alcohol as they can, and then in a situation where, let's use downtown Windsor as an example,
Yep.
you get turfed out into the street with all the other drunks, and nothing good can happen.
I for real can't believe that there's not more pedestrian involved collisions after last call. Like, I've been downtown for last call, and
It's a
everybody's,
mess.
it's like there's people standing in the street, but then the lineup for the shawarma place is like 2 hours long. Like, it's just drunk
Which
people waiting for shawarma, which is
endlessly
hilarious
entertaining.
To me. Yeah,
Endlessly
exactly.
entertaining.
Because everyone's so patient and polite and nice. No, you go
Because
first,
they don't want to
they're
get
all hammered.
They don't want, and they don't want to not get their shawarma.
Exactly. but for real, I've seen it, and there's
Gang
just drunk
warfare.
people standing
Yeah.
in the street, and I don't know how more people don't seriously get hit or killed. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's boggling to me that
don't
it's
know.
actually as safe as it is. But
Well, there are more than a few fatalities, injuries, etc. Yeah, and all of them are unfortunate.
yeah, and the idea of making sure that someone is good and drunk before you kick them out is also
Making sure that someone's good and drunk, exactly. Despite but we all have our smart serve.
Yeah, I mean,
but-
how many times have you seen someone overserved? Like, it happens.
Oh,
all
back
the time.
when I was making music 5, 6, 7 nights a week in the bars, in a lot of them downtown, there were quite a few. I can think of a couple of bars where I worked that did a really good job of not.
Yeah.
Where people who you either wouldn't get past the doorman to get in on a Friday or a Saturday night if you had been pre-drinking, or if you got to the point, Stag and Does would
That's a
sometimes get
different
there.
thing, yeah.
Somebody's 19th birthday would sometimes get there.
Yeah.
Where it's a situation where, your buddies are just, filling you full of booze after
And
booze.
they made plans to not be the one getting themselves home.
Right.
Right.
But that's okay. But even still, like when they got really, really down and dirty, sloppy and stuff, it's like, okay, now you guys got to go. But it's only 11:30. It's like, well, yeah, but your buddy's
But
a
you're
puddle.
like, you're done.
Your buddy's a puddle, and he's not coming back. I've seen people kicked out on St. Patrick's Day at
Yeah.
like 1:30 in the afternoon, and told explicitly, do not come back until tomorrow. Never mind. Oh yeah, go home. Get 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Have dinner
Come back.
at 8:00 when you're hung over like a bear. Come on back, and we'll help you. We'll help you with a little hair of the dog. No. They were told explicitly, go away. Do not come back until the 18th at least.
The fun thing that I saw was, and I can admit a shameful story. Well, it wasn't that shameful, but in parts of Europe, I know, in fact, in Italy, in Florence specifically, the doormen have breathalyzers at the door.
Really?
Yeah.
Neat.
Ask me how I know. Yeah, I was on a Kentucky tour, which if you have younger humans that you
Right.
know, it's a tour group specifically for 18 to 35, I believe, 18 to 30, 18 to 35-year-olds.
Okay.
So it does a bit of cultural and a bit of party stuff.
Right.
Like, it really is a nice balance. It's not all partying or all like boring
cool.
cultural stuff. They
Yeah,
mix it up a little.
Boring cultural
Well,
stuff.
because I don't even like a museum, and I'm a history major. And
Nothing
I just,
is for. I could live in a museum. I
hate
could go.
it.
I could go to the ROM. I could live in the ROM.
Not for me.
Yeah,
Unless it's
totally.
like a natural history museum and there's dinosaurs and shit. I'm not
I could do that too.
interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'll go see a dinosaur. I'm not interested in anything else.
Okay. Hey, you're allowed to like what you like.
Yeah.
I find myself gravitating towards the arms and armory section,
Okay,
mostly
yeah.
because I want to check out the chainmail, because I make chainmail. So,
Right? Yeah, you got to go look. I know, believe me, like a knitting exhibit, I'm like all in, which sounds super boring, but I'm like, that's really cool. I could
So
totally
it
make
sounds
that.
like you will go to a museum.
Depends on what they have. Usually no.
Exactly.
Usually the short answer is no.
Right.
But yeah,
Because there's breathalyzers, apparently.
this was at a club.
Oh, okay.
we had done the pre-drinking before going to the actual club,
As you do.
which I took a little too seriously because I wasn't planning on going to the club was the problem. And then my friends convinced me to go. And then me and this lovely, lovely Australian woman, we're going in the door and they're like, no, you guys are too drunk. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm not that drunk. And I'm like, okay. Like me, I'm typical Canadian. I'm like, sure, sorry, I'll go away now. And then
Find somewhere else to
this
go.
little Aussie, she's Aussie Hindi, and she's just like, starts like, no, I'm not that drunk. And the doorman pulls out the breathalyzer. You want to blow? She blew .289. And I was like, oh. And then they asked me, they're like, do you want to blow? And I was like, no. No.
I'm,
like,
I'm
I
a
don't.
Canadian. I'm okay with going somewhere else and
Yeah,
drinking.
I'm like, I don't need to know what this number is.
There is probably a park with a swing somewhere where I can sit and finish drinking or sober up, and either way, I'm good with that.
I was like, I don't need to know. Like, I know I'm drunk. I know you don't have to tell. I don't need a number to tell me how drunk I am. I don't need to know.
I did this to myself, remember?
Yeah.
Nobody
I know.
snuck up on me with alcohol.
So then they told us to go away, sober up, came back. We went to this convenience store across the street, got a couple bottles of water, and then all of a sudden she's talking to the lady behind the counter, and all of a sudden they swapped speaking English for speaking Hindi, but like my drunk brain couldn't like whoop. And I was like, and she's that drunk and she's still like perfectly bilingual? Like, go you. And then we found our way back and they let us in, but then they gave us like a card that like we weren't allowed to get any more drinks,
Right.
which was fine because
Give
I
you-
had enough alcohol to hold me the whole night.
Give you
so.
the underage wristband or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. So, but yeah, they actually had breathalyzers at the door, which I was impressed, but also terrified by.
I don't know that I'd be terrified by it, but
Well, it was like, oh, you're gonna tell people the number. Okay, we're gonna tell people what the number is.
is it a situation where that country,
Or
that city
O2 now.
has made a concerted effort so that people do know their numbers?
It
Like,
may well be.
that could very
like
well
I said,
be,
I
because
don't-
that's not such a bad thing.
I think it's a good idea, especially with how strict our drunk driving laws are here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be a really great idea to be like, you're drunk. Here's how drunk you are.
Here's how drunk
Like-
you are. Yeah.
Like, not only are you not driving, like you're getting into alcohol poisoning range. How about
or
that?
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so,
absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Well,
Yeah. So there's that to consider.
the real trick is making people use it. And that brings up the question of do we criminalize legal behavior by putting, for instance, does every car ignition need a breathalyzer on it? I don't know that it does.
I'm fighting with
don't know
every
that.
time I drive my car, my phone turns off notifications until I go on my phone and say, I'm not driving anymore.
I'm kind of okay with that.
It annoys me.
I
It's
know it
unnecessary.
annoys you.
It's
It's-
unnecessary. My phone is in my back pocket the whole time I'm driving. If a notification goes off, I don't touch it.
It's not for you. It's for the people who do. No, I get it. And in 50 years, 100 years, whatever, in much less time than we think it's going to be, all cars are going to be self-driving anyway.
Which would be
Which
fantastic.
means you can drink your face off and be on your phone constantly. And
Yep,
what was the big objection? The big objection: we can't have self-driving cars. People will have sex in them. I
Yeah.
think we talked about that already.
That's
Right.
not a problem.
Oh
Who
no!
cares?
Dang.
Tinted windows, done.
Yeah, well, or not, and charge people. Sort of a rolling Pornhub kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like
that's-
whatever. Who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah,
People
yeah,
already
yeah.
have sex in cars. People already have sex in moving cars, which is
moving
dangerous.
car, which is very dangerous.
People already do it.
Right. Okay, so what have we established? We think we're in favor, certainly, of lowering, potentially abolishing the drinking age.
Yep.
We think we're in favor of that.
But
Okay.
we're back to the shit that bugs me is we have laws, right? We have the smart serve.
Yep.
We have how you're supposed to legally supply alcohol safely, and
Yep.
yet we have people that just don't do it. and we have businesses that encourage their servers to not follow the law.
I suspect. I think you finish your thought because I think I have a fairly good idea why. But go ahead.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, we have a system, but nobody enforces it. We're back to this whole, like, we want to, like, I hate the amount of government spending because they spend it on things that are bullshit. They spend it on their wages. They spend it on wasting time talking about shit that really doesn't need to be talked about again. Instead of hiring more inspectors to go around and make sure that health and safety codes are up to date, or bylaw officers to collect fines, to fund our taxes, to fix our fucking infrastructure. But no, we're not going to enforce the laws that we have because hiring another inspector would be too much money. Is literally the justification they give constantly.
It's
Hiring
certainly one of
those
them.
is too much
one
money.
of them. Yeah, I don't know that it's the only one, but it's certainly one of them.
We have the laws in place regarding how much alcohol is too much. The signs, they tell you what people look like when they're really drunk. Like, you should know.
Apparently, people are trained with their smart serve,
Yep,
etc.
I have my
to know
smart
that.
serve.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hard to believe I've worked in the bar industry or been bar industry adjacent for this long, and I don't have my smart serve card.
That is actually impressive.
It's ridiculous. Okay, so
just enforce the laws we have. That's all I'm asking.
Right. I was going to talk about why I think maybe that happens, though. The whole over serving thing is there's a lot of money goes into a bar.
Yeah.
A lot of money goes into a bar. And who sees the least of it? The cook.
Yep. Yeah.
And the bartenders.
I was a cook for a long time.
Bartenders, servers, and
Okay.
they make their money because of fucking tipping.
But now we have another bugaboo. Why the fuck do servers deserve to get paid less? Oh, because of tipping. Tipping is because they get paid less, you stupid fucking morons. Who makes our laws? For real, who makes them? What kind of idiots do we elect?
Tipping isn't a law, but yeah.
But the reason why it's lower,
the reason why there's server
tips.
minimum, exactly.
It's stupid.
It
should be the minimum should be the minimum. It doesn't matter what industry you go into.
Right,
It's
but
stupid.
I'm also in favor of abolishing tipping, but that's a whole other conversation.
See, and again,
It's
when
a
you
whole
live
other
in Europe,
conversation.
there is no tipping.
There certainly isn't the expectation for tipping that North Americans have.
England, you tip them, they put it in the till. Like it doesn't. They're like, are you sure you don't want your change?
Toss it in
keep
the Oxfam thing.
Yeah, they're
Give
like,
it to the kids that need it. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
like they're painfully confused.
Right. Now I do hear that that's a practice that's actually becoming more Americanized, unfortunately. But whatever. Yeah, that would be too bad if the American model of tipping spread more. I don't think it's going to. I think we're on the edge of getting rid of the whole practice anyway, in favor of paying people a decent wage for a decent job.
Like, I have no problem if somebody goes and gives me outstanding service, I will happily give them a tip. Or the kudos call in telemarketing, where, like, you have really good customer service on the phone, or ask for their manager and be like, this person's the shit. Keep them for real. Give them a raise.
Yeah. Go get them a cookie from out of the jar.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm totally in favor of doing that. I hate that it's an expectation, because then that's not the point.
Right.
The point is it's a reward for being awesome.
It should be.
And
it should be. For above and beyond.
Yeah.
Not an expectation for basic service.
And also 99% of, like, because I worked as a cook, and it's the one thing people complain about is how their food is cooked. And that's not the waitress's fault.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
That's a whole other,
But then on the same token, when they're like, the food is so good, that's not the waitress's fault either.
It really isn't. No.
That's my fault. Thank you.
Yep. I got you. So we were talking about
voting,
drinking age, but voting age. Do we change the voting age? Do we raise it? Nobody under 40 should be allowed to vote. Nobody under 70 should be allowed to vote for anything. Is that acceptable?
Definitely not. That's
really
terrifying. Thank you for bringing my nightmares to
Nobody
surface.
under 150 should be allowed to vote. How about that?
I mean, I almost feel like there should be an age cutoff at which you no longer get to vote. Because, I mean, like, how much living are you actually doing in society at, like, 80 plus? Most people are not doing very much.
I'm not sold that it's an age thing. In my slightly more, I guess it would be fascist
Okay.
moments.
All right, fair.
In my slightly more fascist moments, I can certainly see my way clear to there having to be some sort of aptitude test. One having to exhibit knowledge in the process, in the potential outcomes, demonstrate that you have a handle on what's going on, and then maybe we'll let you vote.
But don't you know, we have civics class to teach
Well,
people
yeah,
that.
Okay.
Come on, a half a semester in high school
whole-
teaches us everything we need to know.
You keep talking about this high school thing, like
Like everybody went there, I know.
Shit. You know how long ago that was for me? I don't even want to think about it. So.
My gigantic Facebook rant the other day was about how in order to vote, you should be able to identify a key point from each party's platform. Because I was like, I guarantee you 90% of people could not give you 5 points.
I like that
one
idea.
One from each party's platform. They couldn't
like
tell
that.
you because they have no idea what any of the other parties.
It falls along the how to have good conversations practice of steel manning.
Yeah.
Right? You have to, okay, yeah, so you object to whatever, pick one, the Marxist-Leninist party, whatever. In order to frame a cogent objection to the Marxist-Leninist platform,
you need to know it.
You have to be able to explain your objection to something on their platform in a way that they wouldn't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very difficult to do.
It is.
It's very difficult to do, not even just in politics. It's very difficult to do
in life in general.
At all. Yeah. Those who try should be lauded.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm like, you should at least have to know at least 1 point from the
Sure.
parties and to be able to vote. Because if you don't know at least 1 point from all of the parties, arguably you don't know enough about what each of the parties stands for to be able to make an educated decision about which party you think is honestly the best choice for everyone, not even just for yourself.
You also don't have the capacity to dismiss a party.
Exactly.
If you can't
say this party isn't good when you know nothing about them.
When you know nothing about them. Yeah, that's like saying, "Oh, I don't need to read this book. I know exactly what's in it." Like, well, no.
I'm also in favor for abolishing the party system because we have party leaders that can override things in the party's platform, but then we have the platform whose purpose is to tell us what the party stands for, except if the party leader counter-indicates that, and I don't understand what the purpose of any of it is.
You are singing the gospel to the choir.
Yeah,
you know that,
like,
right?
It's dumb. All of it makes no sense.
You know, being a rabid sortitionist at this point, you know,
But then I'm also I can't trust people because we're back to they can't even read they can't read 5 party platforms. How are they going to read about every single issue to make a good decision?
Well, that's why you don't pick one person for sortition. You pick committees.
Yeah, you pick a committee.
It's almost exactly like jury duty. It's almost exactly like jury duty.
Okay,
So
I'm like,
okay. You pick committees to deal with issues. The committees have access to experts in the field for guidance.
I feel like the committee should just be made of experts in the field.
We do need to include the population at some level. We need to include the populace.
I'm like, I don't want Joe Conservative down the street who thinks that any immigrant is stealing his job when his job is like just a factory job that he got because he was in the right place at the right time. I don't want that guy voting for me. I don't.
But he's not voting for you. He's voting for him.
But
I know.
Dumb. But he's dumb. He lacks sense. I don't want his voice. I don't want it. I want the experts who this is their bread and butter. Every day, all day, they look at this subject. I want those guys making the decisions.
I don't completely disagree with you, but freedom of speech isn't for speech you like. Freedom of speech is for speech you hate.
But I want my laws made but like I said, the people who know all about the issue. I want them to know everything about it.
Sure.
And I want them to make the decision.
But there still has to be a level of public consultation.
See, and I don't believe in that at all.
Wow!
Like, I think
all of a sudden, you have on the fascist pants. Wow!
Yeah. Well, because
Yikes. This took a turn.
I don't know what they know, right? Like I said, this is their okay.
But you never know what anybody knows.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, if they've devoted their entire life to one particular subject, I like to think that they know a hell of a lot more about it than even I could grasp in the time that would be required for me to make a decision to make a law. right? They know, they understand the nuances. They've seen both sides of the issue, every side that there is, because all they do is look at this particular issue, right?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case.
Okay,
I
breed
don't know
ban.
for sure if that's
I'm like,
the case.
I want the dog experts to make the decision on the breed ban. I don't care about Nancy who got her face ripped off by a pit bull. Okay, I don't care. She had one bad experience. That doesn't mean anything about the whole of the breed. It means one bad experience. I also don't want little crier over there who's like, oh, but we have to save all the animals and I'm vegan because I don't want to hurt. I don't want her making a decision either because she's obviously lacking some sense, right? Like, I don't want her I don't want either end. I want the people who work with dogs every day to be like, yeah, like maybe this dog is maybe a little bit more aggressive and here's what we should do instead of banning it. Or maybe banning it is a really good idea. Maybe it is, totally. And if they say that this is a good idea, it's going to be effective, that these dogs are a real problem, cool. Like, they spend days working with, all they do is train dogs. All they do is rescue dogs. Like, I want those people making the decision. I don't want the other people that don't know anything about dogs besides their personal experiences. I don't want them making a decision. I want the person who has had so much experience, gone to school, done classes, seen both sides of the issue, maybe dealt with aggressive dogs, worked with dogs that had attacked people in the past, showed they can be rehabilitated with proper training. I want that guy. I want him to be like, hey, but like I did it. Like, this dog isn't vicious anymore because I worked with it and now it's not. See, like, we can fix this. This isn't a problem. I want those people. I don't want scaredy cat and I don't want bleeding heart. I want person who uses sense and logic and experience and science. Like, I want that person.
It is very highly undemocratic.
It is.
It is.
But it would result in a much better functioning society.
Well, maybe we could go the route of sortition without having to completely destroy democracy, which I'm kind of okay with, because the democratic process has been like it may not be the best political. Well, no, it is. It may not be a perfect political model. It's certainly the best one we have. Democracy. It's what do we have that's better than democracy?
Well, nothing, because we haven't tried anything else, because they're the only group of humans that can vote themselves a raise.
I don't know that
Once they get in, they don't want to get out.
I don't know that we haven't tried anything else. There's an awful lot of history trying other things. So
there's not. There's really not. There's dictators.
See?
In the form of monarchy and not monarchy.
Right.
And then there's democracy. But now democracy's been corrupted. So...
everything's been corrupted.
And democracy never really functioned that well in the first place.
Sortition is incorruptible. When you're pulling names out of a hat, it's incorruptible.
I'm not wrong. I mean, I prefer to pick names out of like a college professor list.
See,
but
okay,
whatever.
I'm not opposed to there being some level of qualification for your name to go into the hat. Qualification and or even interest.
Okay, so like Nancy that got her face bit off
is interested in being
on the dog
committee. Okay, sure. Maybe her name gets pulled. Maybe it doesn't.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
I think people would be more likely to engage in the political process if they felt like there was a chance that they could have
their personal voice,
an actual impact on it, that they could actually be part of it. Yeah, exactly. Like jury duty, and you can recuse yourself from jury duty. You can do all that kind of stuff. You know, if depending on your model of sortition, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. If you know, there are options. I think it's better than. Oh God, I don't want to talk about the election.
No, we're not.
We're not talking about the election.
Say go vote on
Go
Monday.
Go vote. Get educated and then vote, provided you can find someone worth voting for. If you can't find the least of all evils, I don't know, come drink with me.
We should have post voting celebratory drinks on
or
Monday.
something. Yeah. Or some Monday.
Maybe we'll do that.
Monday?
Monday is the 21st.
God. Everywhere that I want to go is closed on friggin' Monday. Jerks.
I know.
Yeah. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
So, drinking age. Yeah, we could probably do without it. Voting age. I don't know. Did we ever figure that out?
They keep talking about that too, where they want to drop it to
can...
16. They've been talking about it forever, and they never ever do. And I I mean, I don't have any objection to it because arguably voting matters more to teenagers because
Well, they're going to live with it longer.
exactly. So I definitely don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, we have to question. But you know what? I worked with teenagers, man. You want to question the rationale of a teenager versus an older person? Like they're pretty well the same.
How about only people who are 36 can vote?
That would be interesting.
I'm picking an arbitrary number.
No,
out
but
of
I
the
mean,
air,
like that would be interesting if you had like one age at which you get to vote and determine.
Wow.
Right now, it'd be interesting because
That's sort of whatever that middle of life,
Yeah.
median life. I would even open it up and let it be like a 5-year span.
Yeah.
This is the 5 years in your life in which you get to vote. I don't know. People are going to lynch us for this podcast.
It would be interesting. I'd be curious to see what happens. With
I would too.
Just because, like, you're right. That's the middle of that. That's like I've lived long enough under other people's rule where now I'm either really disgruntled or I think everything is good and I want to keep it that way.
Right.
Right? Like there's,
Well,
you're either on one side or the other.
I don't know that it's ever completely that black and white. I think that the more people I speak to from different political parties, from different whatever, there tends to be far more middle ground than not. It's the polarization at either end that is making all the noise that makes it seem like
everything is
shitty and everybody just wants to burn it all down. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think the vast majority of people, well, I mean, if you look at the numbers, I think the vast majority of people don't give a shit. That's why voter turnout is in the toilet.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if that's not an indictment of the entire process, I don't know what is.
Well, that's exactly it. They feel like their vote doesn't count because it's first
And
past
they may
the post.
And they may not be wrong, though.
Greens, interestingly enough, I'm not trying to sway votes, but Greens are promising voter reform. So
the question is, do you trust them? The question
Question
is,
is,
do you trust any
them?
politician? Because the check is in your mouth, and I
Yep.
promise not to come in the mail. Right?
Which I'm like, that's interesting. I would like to see. First past the post doesn't help anybody. Like
I
it
don't-
doesn't.
I-
It means
I'm
a significant
staying
amount
out
of
of this.
Canadians are
Yeah.
underrepresented
Well,
because
yeah.
like every year it's like 3 or 4% of the population votes Green every time we have an election, and they don't win any seats because they only win like 2 ridings.
Right.
But that means 4% of our population isn't getting represented
Right.
at all.
Yep.
So
Yep.
first past the post, not ideal.
Why live west of Ontario?
Really.
When it comes to an election, why live west of Ontario?
Yeah. But I mean, then
I don't
there's-
want to
yeah.
talk about politics.
Okay.
This was your topic. I'm
Sorry.
you finish this.
I
you
started with booze. If
wrap,
it helps, I
wrap
started
this one
with
up.
Booze.
Wrap this one up, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah. So like, vote. That's important. It is important.
Voting's important for now.
As long as you do your reading, read. They're like really. You can Google their platform. It's real easy. It's really easy. Trust me. You can do this.
I did the political compass thing from
Did you?
CBC.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It turns out I'm Treebeard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on anybody's side because nobody's on my side. I wasn't close to any political party at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a longer form one where what are there? 5? There are 5, and the top 4. The best matchup I had was in the low 60%.
Okay.
Somewhere. Yeah. Nobody was better than a 60% match for me.
Mm-hmm.
That says to me,
The system.
yeah, you want to talk about somebody who's going to be underrepresented?
Yeah.
It's me.
Mm-hmm.
It's me. There is no. And it's all about me.
But that is the problem with the party system in the first place. They're like, well, we're liberal. We stand for this. We're
Right.
conservative. We stand for this. And it's like, okay, but nobody sits squarely on either side of that
Right.
fence.
I would much rather
Doesn't
talk about
happen.
issues than talk about parties.
Exactly.
Et cetera. Yeah.
But then one issue, when like one issue over here, but then 4 issues on the other side. It's like, so I'm going to screw myself on something, huh? Which
Right.
is it going to be?
Yeah.
Which is more important to me
Right,
this year?
Right. Would I rather get punched in the junk or punched in the teeth?
Exactly.
How do I vote for neither one? That's what I.
It's not. It's
None
an
of the above.
option. It's just not voting. But
right,
then
but that's not. Yeah,
that's not. It doesn't help.
that doesn't
either.
affect change. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So vote. If we ever hear of somebody actually raising the drinking age question again, because it's happened before, it hasn't happened recently, then we should definitely err on the side of voting it down. Same with legalizing all drugs. Portugal has a really good success rate with that. I'm totally pro legalization of everything because science says that it's a great idea, and I support what science supports. Voting, using your voice. Cool. Do it, please. I was like, I'm supposed to start saying something? Oh, crap.
You're always going for the intro
hello.
joke, aren't you? No, we said hello a long time ago.
Fuck.
Didn't we? I thought we did.
I don't remember.
Hey, welcome to the podcast, folks.
Welcome
This will be welcome back. Welcome for the first time. If this is your first time, if this is your first time, what kept you? Where have you been? We've been waiting for you to get here.
So long.
We've been waiting for you to get here. It's about time. Grab a drink, sit down, and do whatever you got to do. No, this is third segment. Is it not? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. What would you like to talk about now?
So immigration, since we're talking about whatever we talked about earlier, that escapes me now. It's been a theme of today.
Hey, look, a castle.
Hey. So whilst we're talking about things.
It's like Finding Dory in here, folks.
Oh, the voting and immigration is like a major election theme for some reason. People care. And
people care, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
is it that people care because some people want to stop it?
Yes, I think largely. But I think they also don't understand it.
Maybe.
In a lot of ways. Immigration is supposed to, statistically anyway, build stronger cities.
Sure. Why wouldn't it?
I mean, I feel like living in Windsor used to be the number 2 city for immigrants to come to. It was number 1 was Toronto, then number 2 was Windsor. But
in Ontario?
In
or
Ontario.
In Ontario, okay.
But I couldn't find any data to support whether or not that's still true. I know
Right.
that was like over a decade ago before we had like a rash of immigrants coming through Canada.
Let's not use the word rash.
I mean, like,
That
okay,
sounds
fair
itchy.
enough. I'm like, you're right. But like before we had like more,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
we've had a sudden influx. That's the words I wanted to use.
Sure.
Yeah. And my issue, like, I've always felt like Windsor has done immigration very well in that our city is set up in a way that, like, people who maybe don't have English as a first language can kind of still get around. Like, there are really strong cultural centers in the city.
Right.
But also because there's those really strong cultural centers and because there's so many immigrants in Windsor, like, everybody loves shawarma. Everybody, right?
How do you not?
Everybody loves shawarma.
How do you
Pho is now a new thing that everybody loves.
Right.
And there's really great, authentic places to get both of those things. Erie Street has always been Little Italy for like well longer than I've been alive. You want great Italian food, you go find a place on Erie Street. They do their festival every year. Like, I'm just saying, Windsor has a lot of very strong cultural communities within the city.
3 words. 3 words.
What?
Carousel of Nations.
Yeah, we do that really well.
Talk about food
Yeah.
and fun and this is what I don't get about people who object to immigration, who object to that sort of stuff.
But they're the people
they-
that will go to Carousel of Nations.
Do
and
they
love it.
do they want to live on Wonder Bread and waltzes? Like
Right.
is
bologna? Does
that
bologna
all
sandwiches appeal to you?
Where's that from? That's I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
We are fortunate in that we live in a culturally and foodly diverse
Well, food
city.
is just
And
one of those
it's just-
very
that's just one example.
obvious. It's a very obvious one that I know just about everyone has taken advantage of, right?
Well, for sure,
Like I
'cause
said,
why
like,
wouldn't you?
everyone in Windsor loves shawarma. Everyone in Windsor knows if you want good Italian food, you go to Erie Street.
If you don't
Everyone
love-
in Windsor knows the little neighborhood that you go to
Yep.
get the pho. If you like pho, that's the neighborhood you go to. There's
Sure.
like a bunch of those little restaurants there, and it's really good. We know this. It's just
It's
how the
it's just
city works.
how it is. Right.
So, yeah, so immigration is supposed to make our cities stronger, and I definitely think that Windsor's done that well. Every time I talk,
think so.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's one of our strengths as a city. And every time
our food, absolutely.
Our food, no, for real though. Been all over the world, and I gotta tell you, the food here is damn good.
Windsor is. Dare we use the word blessed?
Right. But the thing that kind of makes me giggle just like a little bit is that I think the reason why we do it so well is because we've always, in the past, it's changed a little bit now. I feel like there's still some unnecessary hostility, but in the past we've always been very welcoming, right? Like I said. And so like every immigrant I've ever met has always been like, no, I'm Canadian now. Like, yeah, I came from wherever, but no, I'm Canadian now. I live in Windsor. I'm from Windsor.
Okay.
And so that attitude, I think, is also one of the reasons why Windsor does immigration very well, because everyone is very welcoming, because we've always had a lot of immigrants here.
Right.
It seems. So we're always very welcoming. And then when new people from outside come in, they talk to these people, and these people are like, no, like that's not what we do here. Like here we're Canadian. Like this is how we are here. Like we already have a strong immigrant population to support new Canadians.
Right.
To learn how to get around in the city, to support them when they need help. Like we don't even just have the government programs. We have local community members who are also immigrants that step up a lot of times.
There seem to be an awful lot of, I don't like to use the word awful lot, sorry. There seem to be a lot of very good, those sort of community outreach societies, organizations, what have you, there to help. Yeah.
But there are some people that obviously don't disagree. We had that instance of vandalism of some, I want to say there were Arabic people. I can't remember the nationality, but there was someone vandalized their car, like spray painted it with some racist shit, because that's Windsor. My issue isn't that I'm anti-immigration. My issue is, like, I wonder why people are anti-immigration. So if you want to, like, I mean, in Windsor, like, we looked at the statistics, and it's 1 in 4 people in Windsor is an immigrant. So if you are anti-immigration, you probably need to take a look around you and ask yourself why.
Ask yourself, are you sure?
Statistically, 1 in 4 people you meet in this city, that's the whole of Windsor Essex County, actually.
Yeah.
Statistically, 1 in 4 people that you meet is, in fact, an immigrant.
And that statistic came from 2016.
That was up to 2016.
So it might even be a higher number now.
It might be higher now, yeah. But it's
that's not a bad thing.
At least 1 in 4.
That's not at least 1 in 4. At least, sure.
Yeah. So there's that to consider.
On the subject of vandalism, do we read too much into it? Yes, of course. Don't spray paint somebody else's car, somebody else's garage door. Don't spray paint hateful slogans and swastikas under bridges and all that kind of. Just don't do it, because it's antisocial. But if that was the most heinous racist act that ever happened, we'd be a pretty not racist society, right?
We're doing all right.
If that was the worst that ever happened, I mean, don't spray paint anybody's car. Do not spray paint anybody's car. Obviously, that's a crime, and you deserve to be treated as such. That, there are always going to be, and I hate to do this, there are always going to be punk-ass teenagers with too little to do who want to rebel.
See, you're bold. You're going punk-ass teenager. And I'm like, there's a lot of middle-aged people who do some unsavory things because they got nothing else to do with themselves.
Well, maybe.
To me, it's more boredom. Boredom and discontent that I think when I think of graffiti. Like,
maybe
people getting up to no good. The unemployed.
I don't know that it's 40-year-olds spray painting.
Well, I mean, they're
cars.
the ones breaking into buildings. They're the ones that are. You know what I mean? I'm just saying they're the ones doing the petty burglary. So I gotta tell you, spray painting a car ain't that much below it.
You're probably not wrong. And having not seen any report on who may or may not have got caught for, there was graffiti through the East End, like in and around the WFCU. There was graffiti up towards the college. There was, like you said, there was the van. Have been a few garage doors and that sort of thing.
And then there's been numerous
Having-
burglaries that they have arrested people for, and they were typically like, I remember one was a pair 38 and 40.
It's astounding.
And it's like, what the
It's
hell?
I
Like,
do
you're
f-
old enough to know better, for real.
You are a grown ass adult.
Yeah.
And what are you doing breaking into corner stores
Yeah.
or whatever it is? That's a whole other
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you could be absolutely right. I won't disagree with that. That it could be grown ass adults
Instead
out
of punk
there.
ass kids just getting
But
up to trouble.
but it could also just be punk ass kids
Getting up to
with
trouble.
nothing else better to do. So of course they spray graffiti on the signs in around the Ganacho Trail
Because,
and
I mean,
stuff.
that's still,
Like-
there isn't much for young kids to do. Like, for real, there isn't. It sucks.
I disagree. If anything, Windsor has too much to do. There is too much. There is always 100 things going on every weekend.
For all ages? For like 16 to 18?
You just got to get out there and do it. 16 to 18, it may be more difficult.
But
Sure,
those are the kids with the spray paint. The
Those are-
19 plus guys, they're at the bar.
they're at the bar.
I'm like
See-
16 and 18.
See our earlier conversation about being at the bar.
Yeah. Like, oh, see, there's a reason to lower the drinking age. The young, shitty youth who have nothing else to do on a Friday night will now have something to do,
They
and it
can-
will get them off the street and stop
they
them.
can go
They'll be
spend-
destructive to their bodies instead
Right.
of to other people's properties.
Let's not endorse that. let's really
Just
really
connected
not.
the two.
Just connected. Let's not. Easy there, Dave Chappelle. Don't. We don't need
Modern problems
that. We
require
don't-
modern
solutions. Is that what that is? We're going to take the spray paint away and give them bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. No. Suffice to say, it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you are a punk-ass teenager, whether you are a grown-ass idiot adult, don't graffiti shit.
Okay.
Don't graffiti shit. And especially, if, quite frankly, if spray painting a swastika somewhere is the most cogent argument you can make, if that's the best statement you can make, we don't need to hear from you.
Yeah.
We really don't need to hear
mean,
from
like-
you. We would like it if you maybe visit your local library, read a few things, come up with we understand, sure, the people who are out there who are doing that, they feel angry. They feel angry. They feel maybe trapped. They feel like nobody listens to them. So they're trying to find a voice.
I think they're mostly just bored.
I don't. Well,
They
maybe
they need hobbies where they make things.
maybe
So many people are depressed, and all they do is sit on the couch and watch YouTube all day.
that
Like,
says
you need a
maybe.
hobby where you make a thing.
But I would like them to find if you feel like you have to go out and spray paint a swastika on a sign on the Ganacho Trail, what I would rather you did was I would rather you wrote a letter, say, I hate to endorse the Windsor Scar, but write a letter to the paper. Do something where you get your voice out there so that people can engage you in conversation. There is no way to have a conversation with graffiti.
You're not.
You
wrong.
can't have a conversation with graffiti. You can have a conversation with someone who says, "Look, I'm squiffed out in my neighborhood for this reason and that reason and the other reason." Okay, we can talk about that and say, well, okay, maybe you're right about this, but maybe you're wrong about that and this and that. So who knows? And by having those sorts of conversations, maybe we can hope to get over some of this. Human beings have an innate distrust of the other.
Yes.
We do that. There's an old Bedouin proverb that I've heard thrown around a lot. Me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, me and my brother and my cousin against the stranger. That is a truism for the human race.
Yeah.
That we are trying very, very hard to move beyond. And we've done, especially in the last 100, 200 years, we've done a great job.
And that's largely
really
because
great
of
job.
globalism and communication,
that's
right?
part of
Now
it.
you can just call someone on the other side of the country. Now you can call someone on the other side of the world.
You don't even have to
now
call
you
them.
don't even have to call them
And
anymore,
text,
right?
You have access
it
to
was
people literally
amazing.
all over the planet.
Yeah.
And because of that access, that has to be helped. Yes, we're discovering other problems because of that, but
yeah.
the solutions will come for those. And I believe that in part the solution will only come through conversation, will only come through actual engagement in conversation with people who maybe the first word that they spoke in the conversation was spray painting, a dirty word, a racial epithet, a swastika, like whatever, on a bridge, on a something, because they don't know how to say, they don't feel like they can say anything else. They feel like they have to say that. And it's unfortunate because we live in a world where literally everybody has a voice. Case in point, we're doing a podcast. Everybody has a voice. Whether or not anybody listens to it,
That's another problem.
do yourself a favor, folks.
Problem
Don't
for
listen to
another
this.
day.
Don't listen to this. You have better things to do.
Dude, it's too late. They already knew the end. You got to say that at the beginning.
Oh, damn it.
Next time.
I'm not good at this. I'm really not.
Next time, beginning.
I'm really not. Yeah, but I'm going to ask you to remind me that, and you're not going to remind me of that either.
'Cause I'll
Because
forget
neither
in
one
10
of us is
minutes.
good at this.
It bugs me. It hurts my feelings when people are so narrow-minded. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand. Granted, most of the immigrants are employed in manufacturing. They are 25 to 44. They're middle-aged people working in manufacturing jobs, which typically are better paying, but low-skilled, right? Let's be honest.
Right.
If you're losing your job to someone who is an immigrant and you work in manufacturing, you really can't be that upset because they literally have the exact same skills and training as you do. Literally. You just need to be able to show up and do the job. That's what
Or
manufacturing equates to.
Do they have better?
Maybe they do.
Maybe.
But they at least have the same qualifications as you, which is really none.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sorry. I know that these are the good paying jobs. I can't get one of those. So, like, don't take it. And I got 2 degrees. So here we are. Like, you're lucky. But, like, you also can't complain about that.
Right.
And there are loads of government programs available. Like, there are so many changes that you can make. You got to just talk to somebody or decide that that's what you want to do. If you feel like you're getting shoved out, you got to decide to make the change. If you're unhappy, make a change. Don't take it out on other people that made the change.
Take responsibility for your own unhappiness.
Yeah.
And figure out why you're unhappy and how you can change you.
Because those people were unhappy where they were. They decided that they wanted to make a change for a better life. They came here. So you can't fault them for that, right? You would want the freedom to do the same thing. And you would want people to accept you at your new place.
Come here and now they're soaking up all our happiness.
Oh, yeah. All the happiness. They're
Marrying
stealing all the good jobs.
Marrying our jobs and taking our women. Absolutely.
Yep. But that is funny, too, because there is very much that dichotomy between, because, like, I remember when I was in England, they were anti-immigrant. I'm like, hi, immigrant, teaching your classroom. Hello, I spend all day with your children. Hi.
I am 100% positive that everybody in England is an immigrant.
Majority.
No, everybody.
Okay, that depends on your definition of immigrant.
Every human being outside of a very small, fertile valley somewhere in Africa
hold on now.
is an immigrant. Because that's
yeah,
the only
okay,
place the human race evolved.
This is where we have very differing opinions. See, to you, an immigrant is someone who is not indigenous. To me, an immigrant is someone who was not born in the place. I have only ever known Windsor Essex County. I was born here. I was raised here. I lived other places, and those places I was an immigrant. But as far as I'm concerned, I am a native.
Sure.
I am from here. I don't have cultural memories of being back in France and cultural memories of living back in Africa.
Don't you?
I've only ever been Canadian.
That's that goldfish brain.
Right?
That might be. That might be.
But I'm just saying, we have differing opinions on immigrant. And you were born here. You're Canadian. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care. And
which is essentially what I'm saying as well.
Yeah,
I'm being a
you're doing different ways.
biological smartass is what I'm being. Well, that's where the human race
You're not
evolved.
wrong. And neither am I.
No. That's where the human race evolved.
Yeah,
that small fertile valley somewhere in probably
we're just
Central
coming
Africa.
At it from different angles.
And we walked everywhere else. So everybody's a friggin' immigrant.
Yep. You all moved from somewhere else
we
at
all
some
came
point.
from somewhere else to be here.
Or you were born here, in which case, suck it. So was that guy down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their kids were born here.
Let folks be folks.
Yeah.
Get to know your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors on that. Get to know your neighborhood, right? and you'll discover that folks are folks.
Most people are generally pretty friendly.
Peoples are peoples, exactly.
There's a couple of assholes in every neighborhood.
Yeah, there are, but you don't have to invite them to the barbecue.
No, but you do have to deal with them when they call the cops over nothing, because they do that a lot.
This is starting to sound like an echo of a previous podcast.
It's not my neighbor, thank God.
Listen to
it's my neighbor's neighbor.
Was it episode 2? Was it episode 3?
Episode
1. I can't remember.
Episode 1, I think.
Was it episode 1?
Yeah.
You'll have to go back through our previous library.
And I definitely griped about it on the other podcast. Definitely.
Like a one-trick pony.
It's my neighbor's neighbor.
Neighbor's neighbor. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, no, yeah. Talk to your people. Talk to your people. Like if
Get
you're
to know
unhappy,
your community.
change it. Like
Get to know your community.
You can get help. You can go
Right.
and talk to. There's employment agencies. There's College Boreal actually has a really interesting program. That's how I'm getting to go back to school through Second Career.
Oh.
Yeah. So College Boreal, they have like an employment counseling thing, but they have access. They will help you do the forms for the government programs. So they'll tell you what government programs you're eligible for to help with your employment situation if you're underemployed or unemployed.
Right.
So that's an option that I was blissfully unaware of. I knew that there were programs available, but I had no idea what they were. So that's an option. They're very helpful. Yeah, you can try and find another job. You can try and find another place to live. You can I have a friend who's a mortgage broker, and there was stuff that I genuinely didn't know about until I talked to her. And she's like, oh, but if you do this, we can do this and that thing and the other thing. And like, just go in and talk to people.
Right.
Like if you're struggling with something, go and talk to the bank and ask what your
people.
options are.
Yep.
If they have a plan to help you get out of debt, go and talk to the mortgage broker. If you're like concerned about how much you owe or how much your payments are, like they can refinance stuff and get you a better rate or get you a lower monthly payment or like there's options. You have so many options, and I never know what my options are until I'm like, I got to talk to somebody. Like somebody, I don't know much. I'm going to call a guy. You can't Google this stuff because Google doesn't tell you all the options. You got to talk to a person. Sometimes you just got to call a guy.
Walk in the door.
Yep.
Talk to somebody face to face and say, hey, yep.
So like this whole immigrants are stealing our jobs thing is just not true, because immigrants make up a quarter of our Windsor population alone. Right. At least. So there's no immigrants stealing your job. There's none. They've already stolen it, and they've had it for 20 years. Like, it's not how this works.
They're not stealing it. They stole it.
Like ages ago.
Like
well before you had it.
Well before you. Yeah. You can't steal what you never. Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah. No, I'm just in it for the food, man.
Right?
I'm just in it for the food.
I love immigrants. I'm like, tell me stories. Tell me about where you came from. Teach me some of your words. Give me the food. You're right. The food is the best thing.
Give me the food.
But that's what bugs me about cultural appropriation.
There's no such thing.
Right? I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I can... Rick Bayless.
Are we going down this road? Is that where we're going?
We're going down this road.
Okay.
Rick Bayless.
Buckle up, folks.
Rick Bayless. Do you know of Rick Bayless?
Tell the people listening.
Okay, Rick Bayless is the most winningest Mexican chef. Sorry, no, the most winningest chef of Mexican cuisine. Rick Bayless is the whitest of white guys. For real, the whitest of white guys. Super friendly, really nice, has a TV show. If you get channel 50, like -2 or whatever, the Create network, he has his shows on it all the time.
Right.
But Rick Bayless's cooking show is amazing. He goes all over Mexico. He lives there like 6 months of the year. And every time he enters a cooking competition for Mexican cuisine, he wins.
He must be awfully good at what he does.
You would think. However, the Mexican chefs that continually compete against him and lose are screaming cultural appropriation, have been for several years, because they're like, but he's not even Mexican. How can he cook Mexican cuisine better than me, a Mexican, when he's white? Because he can.
Ethnic background doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at any one particular thing.
But they want to argue that, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. It's so dumb. It's just food. Like it's just ingredients, plants and animals combined and on a plate. Like that's all food is. It's just things put together on a plate.
Whoa. Don't denigrate food.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not disagreeing. It's a wonderful, beauteous thing that requires skill to prepare in a very wonderful way. But like, it's still just you put some shit together and you cooked it up. Sometimes you don't even, and you put it on a fucking plate. Like, let's not get too crazy here.
Okay.
Like, it's not like being Mexican gives you some access
Magical
to
power?
a magical spice that only Mexicans get that can flavor Mexican food. And they're arguing that he cheated because he's not Mexican, so he doesn't have the spice. Like, that's not it. That's not it. They're just mad because he wins.
We hear the exact same story about what color palette and symbols a painter can use.
Yeah.
We hear the same thing about what cut and kinds of fabrics people can use to make clothing. We hear the same thing about, I think I heard this from Adam Savage, that singing is basically just squeezing air through your meat.
It's mouth noises.
So what we have people making these same complaints about how other people squeeze air through their meat, that, oh, you're not allowed to do that because quote unquote cultural appropriation, when in fact what they're talking about is cultural segregation. They want control over
how their culture is
whatever
viewed,
it is,
interpreted, looked at,
exactly.
however you want to phrase it.
Well, it just doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. It's never going to work that way. I feel like this may be a whole other topic all on its own, not just about immigrants.
Oh,
it certainly does.
Like
it certainly does.
We take advantage of all of the positive things that immigrants bring to our community.
It's called Wyandotte. Absolutely.
Right.
With all the good food.
New Yasmin. Yasmin.
Yeah. This podcast is making me hungry.
Go in there, get some baklava. Also get some, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. The bread with the spices on it.
I would eat a milk crate full of baklava.
Oh, and the new Yasmin is so good.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
Just saying.
So yes, immigrants, please come to our country. Bring cash. We probably need it.
Yes, we, the people who currently live here, need it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, also take advantage. Take advantage of all of the great cultural things that we have in Windsor Essex.
That this area has to offer. Absolutely.
You want really good Mexican food? Yeah, I know that there's a place in Windsor, but there's also an amazing place in Leamington. Because Leamington has a lot of Mexicans in it.
And they eat.
And they eat
sometimes,
food.
Sometimes a few times a day.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They probably know a thing or two about how to make that food tasty.
Yeah. Take a drive out to Leamington.
Please
There's some really good Mexican food out Leamington way, I'll tell you. Yeah. Like, this is the thing.
We are very lucky. We are very lucky.
Local food, strictly local food, Billy Boston's in Essex. It's just Billy's now. It used to be Billy Boston's. It was a bunch of whole other things for a long time.
Okay.
But now it's just Billy's, and they feature a fully local menu. Their meat is sourced locally. All their produce is sourced locally. So if you really want to know what your county is capable of producing food-wise, go to Billy's. They have Craft Heads beer in there, which is locally brewed.
Cool.
Everything in there is local, which is great.
Do that. Go to the local festivals that happen almost constantly
throughout the summer.
Well, festivals don't just happen in the summer. There's all kinds of
there's
indoor festivals that happen in the winter. There are.
Yeah.
But there are festivals every weekend somewhere, and all you have to do is walk in with a $5 bill, and some nonna somewhere will give you a huge plate of food.
And you know what? And I was thinking about that too, because there's a is it Polish church right near you over?
There are probably
way?
15 churches that I could throw a cat in.
Dimitri's or St. Peter's is right up there, and they've got they always do their pierogi and cabbage roll sale. I see the sign for it all the time. Oh man, I'm like, I got to go in there. Maybe we need to make a group of like cultural events in the city, like, because I'm like, I want to go there.
I think we probably have that.
I hope so, because I'm like, we need
one
for like all the little
of Windsor
like.
Actually.
Oh, St. Dimitri's is by the funeral home on Tecumseh Road. That's what I'm thinking of. And they also always have like their pierogies and.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's all those little like not foreign, just like ethnic Christian churches
Yep.
that have like their
There's always a sale
Yeah.
that goes on Sunday afternoon.
yeah. I'm like, I need to go to some of those.
Whether you're getting stuffed peppers, whether you're getting
Yeah.
pierogi, whether you're getting sausages, whether you're
And
getting
it's everybody's
whatever.
grandma. Everybody's grandma is
Yep.
just cooking for the church.
Absolutely. Say what you will about churches, but go buy the food. Go buy the food. You won't be disappointed.
Well, because we lack the cultural centers in some ways.
I don't know. I think we have centers, we have churches, we have. I think it's absolutely the case that we secularists lack centers,
Yes. Yeah.
and maybe we should do something about that. But that feels like it's a whole other conversation.
Well, isn't that what like the Ontario Humanists do? They want it should be like a group part of them, or part of like the Canadian Humanists. You have to have like basically like a church meeting every Sunday.
I am
'Cause
unsure.
that came up before when we were talking about the group.
Was it?
And we just I don't want to go to church. I don't want to go to anything like church. I don't want to have to go anywhere on a Sunday. I want to I work my whole week so that way I can
Absolutely.
sit in my pajamas and not leave my house the whole weekend. That's my goal, is to not leave my house the whole weekend.
But when we have our mod meets, when we have our blood donation, when we have our, whether we go bowling or whether we go donate blood, whatever it is that we do, I mean, isn't that's a cultural thing that we go
Yeah, it
and do?
definitely
And,
is.
yeah,
we just don't do it super regularly.
We really, really don't. Yeah, we have a blood donation coming up. If you're
November
part of,
13th?
did we pick a date?
Was it 11th or 13th? I want to
You're asking a guy who was unaware that we picked a date. So
I thought we did. I will double check
please,
with
yeah,
the
but
woman whose name escapes me, but she's the one that takes care of these things because she's wonderful and loves us
Right.
all very much.
it's good to have people that help out because we need them. We can't do this whole page by ourselves. So.
No, I do too many things with kitten stuff. You do too many things with theater stuff.
Oh God, I don't even want
Jill
to talk about
does
it.
too many things with kids.
With Jill stuff.
Because Jill's got a plethora of children.
Yes, she does. And all kinds of other things on the go.
Yep, and also now Boy Scouts.
Right.
So
Right.
we're all busy people, but
Everybody's
for the
busy.
common good.
Yeah, everybody's busy, and we want to keep doing stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so then
I
let's
think
pretend that like us atheists or secularists are like immigrants, and maybe we should have like a little bit more of a stronger group following where we actually do things in our community.
I'm not opposed. I don't have
Like,
time
wouldn't
to
that be
organize
great?
it.
I know,
I'm
I
not
don't
opposed.
have
I don't have time to
time.
organize it. I
I
would
know,
love
but-
to. I would absolutely love to. I don't have time right now to organize it. The new year may bring some changes where we can. Stay tuned, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully the holiday. I gotta arrange a lot of things. Hopefully the holiday party will be soon enough.
That'll be good too.
Yeah.
Is that a wrap?
I
think that's a wrap.
guess I'm out of words.
I feel like that's a wrap.
I'm out of
That was Season 1, Episode 3 of the Showcast. Feel free to contact us at secularhumanistsofwindsor@gmail.com or join us on Facebook by searching for Secular Humanists of Windsor or Showcast, all one word. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.